The Young Writers Conference is a place where young writers from all over California, especially the Central Valley, come together to share their stories, their experiences, their perspectives, their unique perspectives within a journal that is created by high schoolers. So it's a journal for youth, created by the youth. I attended for my first time last year, and seeing my writing published in a journal, especially as such as prestigious as this, and also being here on the campus of Fresno State, being in a college journal, it just takes your writing to a whole nother level. And with the workshops included as well, like you really grow as a writer. And I think the opportunity for representation as well for your own perspectives and your own stories is so great. Also, hearing your writing being read out loud here as well when you go and accept your award, it's an inexplicable feeling. It's just something I can't describe and put into words. It's something that I will cherish forever, and it really makes me feel like my writing is worth something and that my words are something that people want to hear and that my experiences are valid. This year, I'm most excited about seeing the underclassmen that have come with my school grow as writers. I'm a senior this year, so this is my last conference ever, which is a very bittersweet moment. I wish that I could just stay in high school forever so I can keep writing and keep publishing for high schoolers and for people like me, people who look like me, people who speak my same language, and for those beyond those barriers as well, for all other groups. I hope to be able to write for everyone and to be able to speak to everyone's perspectives. And I think that this conference does this for us. And I'm just really excited to see how the underclassmen that I've been to school with for the past 4 years, that how they grow as writers and to see them experience the same success as well. I just want to thank everyone who's in charge of this committee who puts together this amazing conference. Like how I said before, the representation that we get from this conference is extraordinary, and it has created so much change in my life and given me the confidence to be able to speak louder, to be able to write more. This year I wrote about missing minority women and the lack of media representation for them, and especially because there's so many disparities within healthcare and all those things that go into our judicial system as well, so many aspects that contribute to this issue, that I decided to put it to paper, and today it's published and I can see it in this journal and I can see it on paper, which is such an incredible experience. And I know that my words will be making a difference. And I know that the words of all these other high schoolers who have unique experiences and unique backgrounds, especially unique to the Central Valley as well, will be able to relate to other people, and they'll be able to spread it to the rest of the community, which is a gift that it has no value to it. It's priceless. And I'm so grateful for that. So thank you, Young Writers Conference.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Morning. All right, let me hear you. Good morning, everyone. All right, awesome. So welcome to Fresno State and welcome to the 45th Annual Young Writers Conference. So, thank you for being here. My name is René Rodriguez Astacio, and I've had the pleasure of co-coordinating this year's event with Venita Blackburn. Venita and I are published authors and writers and professors here at Fresno State. But we were once young high school students like yourselves, dreaming of one day making our mark in the world. So it's so inspiring to be a part of this truly legendary Young Writers Conference legacy, right? Two quick things before we begin. First, I want to acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional homelands of the Yokus and Mono peoples. And secondly, you are also looking very good right there when you are, so I'm gonna take a quick photo, right? So as I do, please bring your biggest smile, and, all right. Okay, for posterity, right? So the Young Writers Conference received considerable support from our campus and communities. Their names are scrolling on screen and in your program. I'd also like to specially thank and acknowledge our president, Dr. Saul Jimenez Sandoval, our provost, Dr. Xuaning Fu, who is right here, the Dean of Arts and Humanities, Dr. Honora Chapman, and the Chair of the English Department, Dr. John Bynon. We are grateful for their continued support of creative writing. I also need to thank the English Department staff who worked so hard to make all of this come and happen, right? Thank you to Lisa Galvez, the editorial assistants Yamil Maz. Yamil, where are you? Can you raise your hand? All right, we have Yamil back there. And Angelina Leaños. There we go. And a very special shout out to the amazing Jefferson Beavers, who is the heart of this operation. Yes. Thank you, Jefferson. I also want to thank the members of the Arts and Humanities Advisory Board and the writing community who adopted half of the school delegations here today. You can see them listed in Spectrum and in the program as well. This morning's keynote address is funded by Fresno State's instructionally related activity funds, so thank you to all of our students. I'd also like to take a minute to express my appreciation to your teachers who encouraged you to write your poems and story and do whatever is necessary to bring you here today. Devoted, compassionate, and generous teachers create the intellectual and community foundations for progress in any civilization. It's an old and noble profession worthy of respect and admiration. I say that as someone who always dreamed of becoming an educator and who found inspiration in my first teacher, my mother. I am forever grateful to my English teachers above all others who helped me recognize the beauty and magic of language, a gift. Teachers, please stand up and let us give you a big round of applause. Teachers, come on up. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce our provost, Dr. Xuaning Fu, who has a few words of welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy and excited to see all of you, and this happy moment annually for me and for all of us to celebrate our young writers. So welcome all of you to Fresno State for this exciting event. And as you know, Fresno State has a proud legacy of writers, including the Pulitzer Prize winner and National Poet Laureate Philip Levine. And we have a room in our library, the Philip Levine Reading Room, dedicated to him. That's a living demonstration of how important writing is to us, to language, to culture, and to the next generation of writers. That's you. The Central Valley, where Fresno State is situated, has launched the careers of hundreds of excellent writers. As you know, today's keynote speaker, Donna Baba Higuera, has deep roots in the Central Valley. And she's a prolific writer, and she has won numerous awards. I'm sure you will learn a lot from her speech, from the interaction with her, and I hope you will be extremely encouraged and energized to become just like her and other valuable and legendary writers that Fresno State is associated with. We value the power of writing. Remember, the power of writing, the skills of writing, the creative thinking ideas you have will never be replaced by any technology, including AI, and AI can help you, maybe editing your writing, help you with your grammar, your choice of words, but the idea, the creative thinking, critical thinking, will always be the lifeline of writing. That's what we want to instill in you, working with you, so as you can be developed, grow to be the next generation leaders in writing and in everything else. And we recognize the need of creative thinkers and writers in our community and beyond. And we grow and honor young writers like you. Now, one of our slogans in the English department is, I quote, "We grow writers." And you have come to grow with us today, and for the rest of your life, let me say it that way. And I really want to encourage you to keep growing yourself, your imagination, your writing skills, independent and critical thinking. I want to thank all the staff in the English department and faculty in the English department and in the College of Arts and Humanities. They work tirelessly to put this program together, and they are doing this with a very happy heart because they see you, our future. So thank you, faculty, staff, dean. Now finally, I hope I can see all of you when you come to college. Come to us, become an excellent Bulldog writer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fu. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities, Dr. Honora Chapman.
As you have seen, we have a remarkably humane provost, the chief academic officer of our campus. Dr. Fu, in fact, majored in English in college, yet he became a sociologist by profession as a professor. He's extremely flexible, and that is the thing you can do in college. All of you can find your passion, pursue it. You can do your major in English, or you can do your major in sociology or mechanical engineering, and you can minor in creative writing at Fresno State. Fresno State is the single best university in the entire Central Valley. Between the Bay Area and Los Angeles, there is nothing like us. The College of Arts and Humanities lets you do all the arts, visual, performing, including music in an amazing school of music, and theater. We were the only university in California that continued doing things in person when everybody else shut down during the pandemic. Why? Because we believe so deeply in your education. You, as future Bulldogs, will come to a campus with the most committed faculty imaginable. They work really hard and they pour themselves into you as their students. You won't be disappointed by Fresno State in terms of clubs and organizations. There are hundreds of them. And our campus is beautiful, as you saw today with all the sunshine. You've got an arboretum, hundreds of different types of trees here. It's a wonderful place to study, not just the arts and humanities, but anything your heart desires. We have it here at Fresno State with an incredibly supportive community that is here to employ you when you graduate too, because 80% of our graduates stay here in the Valley, others go away, but we are the heart of the Valley, we are the flagship, and I really hope you will look into studying at Fresno State in the future and joining us, because we do indeed want you to become future Bulldogs, to study with amazing professors like Dr. Rodriguez Estacio, and all my colleagues over here. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your beautiful literature with us, and we look forward to you having an awesome day on your great field trip away from high school. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Dean Chapman. And then, everyone, get your cheers ready, because for our roll call today, please welcome Chair of the English Department, Dr. John Bynon.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Bynan. I'm the chair of the English department, and it is my great pleasure to read off the names of the schools that you represent. And so when I do that, you need to make a little bit of noise, get a little rowdy, let me know that you are here, that you are present, all right? That will be music to my ears and a feast for my eyes. All right, so we're going to start with Chowchilla! Chillin', Chowchilla, Clovis West. All right. Corcoran. Corcoran in the house. We got C-Tech. All right. Few but mighty. Dos Palos. Oh, man. Okay. I think we're setting the bar with that one right there. Duncan Poly. Woo! Right there. Endeavor Voyager. Nicely done. Fowler. Oh, okay. We got some competition. Hanford West. Okay, you're knocking me off the podium here. Hoover. All right. King City. There you are. I can see you. Liberty. All right, welcome Liberty Los Banos. Awesome, Mariposa. All right, some noisy ones in the back. Oakdale. Riverdale. All right, welcome. Roosevelt. Woohoo! Selma. Oh, okay, I think I heard some about the power of the pen. All right. Summit. All right, Summit hasn't made it yet, but they're going to be here, and you should say, welcome, Summit. And Tranquility. Also pending. A couple of schools coming, so you can welcome them when they come. University. Whoa, okay. Welcome, everybody. You're going to have a great experience. Thank you for being here. Thanks to the teachers who are educating you and bringing you down. I'm going to turn this back over to Renee.
Thank you, Dr. Bynan. And one last final cheer. Everyone together. There we go. Awesome. We love to hear that. All right. Now I have one more important detail to share about your time on campus. Lunches. So box lunches will be available following the keynote portion. Those lunches will be on tables just outside the front doors. Pick up your lunch and choose where you like to enjoy your meals, and we've had extra trash receptacles placed outside the building for your use, all right? Finally, it is time to also present the writing awards, right? So let's get some cheers for that. All right. Award time. So, Professor Benita Blacksburn's publishing students served as the editorial board. Do we have any students on here? All right, can you stand up? All right, applause for them. Awesome. They were tasked with selecting which pieces to honor and publish, and we received hundreds of submissions and offered 25 awards. Those pieces are featured in Spectrum, our anthology, which you can find in your bags, and we also have some of them in our tables. Now, I have a representative from our class, which is Deborah Bentos, who was in Professor Blacksburn's class, and they will read a statement written by the publishing and editing class to all the students to submit it to the anthology. Please welcome Deborah.
I'm shorter, so. First of all, welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you here. Congratulations to those who have been awarded it for their submissions and to those who dared to submit it all. That's a big feat. Since 1980, the Spectrum Journal has worked to highlight the creative works of high school students in the Central Valley, our shared community. We are truly honored to be a part of this legacy and have everyone participated. As the judges, we were deeply impressed. outstanding. I mean, the submissions were crazy great. We were deeply impressed by the vulnerability, innovative form, and the integration of themes involving social justice, identity, and culture. The eloquence, intelligence, and creativity of all of your voices surprised and inspired us. Sharing your art is difficult, but an essential part of being the artist, no matter what the outcome is. Never underestimate your power of your unique perspective. As you continue your journey, your writing journey, remember to read more than you write more than you think is enough, and uplift yourself as much as others. Congratulations and big hugs to you little weirdos. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Please know that whether your work appears in the journal or not, you are a winner for submitting, for writing, and for attending. You're doing a brave thing when you share your words and ideas. So now we're going to go into the portion of the awards, and we're going to have some of our faculty and students who are going to be coming up and calling the names of the award winners. When you hear your name, for those who are receiving the awards, come up to the stage, right? And then before you step down to the stage, just wait a little bit over here. We would love to take a picture of you, all right? So here to present the first award is our provost, Dr. Fu.
Should I stand here? Would you raise this so I can present them?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Do you want me to read the name? Yeah. Okay. All right. So for the President's Awards, our first award goes to Haley De La Mora from Hoover High School for A Life Unlived. For every man whose words fills the history books, how many women were left behind, their billions buried under the weight of a society that refused to see their worth. Congratulations. And our second President's Award goes to Karina Anguiano from University High School for I Am a Bad Word. I am a bad word, one filled with beauty and appreciation, one of godlike sanctity. It's used without its true meaning attached, with no meaning attached, with my parents saying they hate these things. I hear my uncle talk about his own brother as if his name puts a sour taste on his tongue, thinking he's the bigger person, leaving an argument because he didn't want to call him a queer. All right, and now we're going to go into the Provost Awards. And our recipient is Sara Doñan from University High School for They Say No One Is Looking for Her. Have you seen me? You must have read about me in the daily newspaper. The last few pages under the grocery coupons I used to paperclip together. You must have seen my picture near the building down on Ventura Avenue, on that pole right in between La Vaquera Dorada Western Wear and Castillo's Mexican food. Hanging on by a sad piece of tape, my face is already blurry from the heavy rain on April nights when you drive past by. Thank you.
The next award is for the Dean's Award, and it goes to Tatiana Grumo from University High School.
Infertility runs in our blood like the maternal instinct runs in mothers. Ineffable, inescapable, inevitable. I never seem to mind it, though. Kids never interest me like that. So, when I looked down at that test and two smug pink lights smiled at me, Maybe I really was excited for a kid. So what if blood and history was against me? Maybe I really wanted one. Maybe, just maybe, I could be the lucky, selfish one in the family. Library?
Good morning. My name is Sarah McDaniel, and I'm the librarian for English at the Fresno State Library. And I'm just excited to welcome you all to our library later today. If you can visit, we have some exhibits about National Poetry Month, for example, and we really welcome you to join us there. The first library award goes to Brianna Garcia from Fowler High School for My Older Brother.
To anyone who cares enough to ask, I am the youngest of my family, the youngest in a family of 2 daughters. But deep in my heart, I know I have a brother too. My older brother and I don't share the same father, which alone doesn't sound shocking. But what really throws others off is that we have different mothers too. Yet we share our last name and the blood that runs through our veins. That is enough for us too.
Great. And our second library award goes to Evan Gonzalez from Summit Collegiate High School for his piece, The Drought.
There is a drought in this land, the written land surrounded by a void filled with only white. Maybe if I didn't spend so much time on the internet, I would have time to search or surf for inspiration. Gliding through the tide of all my thoughts, writing it until I find the right ones. Thank you so much.
The next award is the Allison Murphy Award, and it is presented to Karina Anguayo from University High School for I Am a Bad Word.
I am a word of hope. I hope to continue as I am, while others could only hope to put me out of with disdain, like a field of fire, like a field on fire. I'll cling to the driest of grasses just to nurture my passion, a flame that can always spark again, despite some water, some words, some hate, some fire.
I'm honored to present the Mia Barraza Martinez Awards. Mia was a brilliant poet and an exceptional student, and she also taught here as a TA in our creative writing program at Fresno State. She died in a car accident about 9 years ago, and it's times like today when I miss her the most. One of the things that made Mia so amazing was her deep passion for and commitment to social justice. She believed deeply in the power of literary art, actually all arts, to help make the world a better place. This year's there are 2 Mia awards. The first one, the Mia Barraza Martinez Award for Social Justice Writing, goes to Daisy Acevedo from King City High School for Euphemize Me.
I am referred to as many things, but what I am. 1, unlawful. 2, unwanted. 3, one of which dehumanizes me. To me, I am everyone. To a dictionary, I am illegal.
The second Mia Barraza Martinez Award for Social Justice goes to Sarah Donyan from University High School for They Say No One Is Looking for Her.
But still they say I strayed too far from home, that I'll be back soon, that girls like me always come back eventually. And in this familia, you learn. You learn that from that traviesas, that thief's mistakes. You learn to lower your gaze, say your prayers, and stick to your curfew. You learn that when a girl like Carito disappears, she isn't missing. She has run away, and no one is looking for her. Nadie la va a buscar.
Good morning. My name is Kate McKnight, and I'm a lecturer in the Theater Arts and Dance Department, and I'll be presenting 2 awards this morning. I'm very happy to have been asked again this year to present the Corinne Clegg Hales poetry, and that was Corinne Clegg Hales who just presented. She's my friend, and she's my former poetry professor. When I returned to Fresno State over 30 years ago to get my teaching credential, I took Dr. Hales's poetry seminar. Not only was her feedback amazing, but all the other poets in the class. And Dr. Hales, I continue to write to this day, and I came in second at the Rogue Festival Poetry Slam last month. Yes, so students keep writing. So I'm honored to present this recipient for the Corinne Clegg Hales Poetry Award, Olivia Dean from University High School, for her poem, If Trees Could Talk. She's not here. Accepting on her behalf is English professor Larry, I blanked out your last, oh my gosh, thank you, Gerard. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Draki.
The sycamore trees would tell you the story of the San Joaquin summers of memories. Water flowing to the fields of the farmer with the stained brow.
Sorry to talk over the poem.
No, sorry.
This next award, bear with me while I say a few words about my father. My father, Ray McKnight, taught English here at Fresno State for 32 years. One of his proudest achievements was having the vision to establish this very Young Writers Conference. I didn't really understand the importance of it when I was a high school senior the year that it was established, 45 years ago, but later I brought my own high school students, and then I understood the impact for the students and their teachers. He would be very honored again to see the continuing conference every year, and to see all of you and to see the beautiful writing. It means so much to all of us and my family. My father passed away in 2022. I miss him greatly, but I feel him here today. Thank you, Professor Tanya Nichols, who established this award, and I continue to support it year after year. So, the recipient of the H. Ray McKnight Award this year is Isabella Riley from Liberty High School for her work of fiction, Living to Exist.
The wide, striking, smooth walls of homes and the honeysuckle plants across the lawn called to me like no other. I could smell the fresh blossoms and mist from the sprinkling water hoses, even from the far side of the hill where I was. I smiled with ease as I watched my friends play basketball on the smooth pavement with their perfectly manicured golden retriever running around with them. They were dressed nicely with beige sweaters and crisp button-ups across one leg over the other. The bench I sat on was made of wood that was used for white picket fences. It was perfect.
Hello again. The next award is the Chairs Award. I'm presenting that. It goes to Victoria Lee from University High School for Good Night to My Love and Lost.
I've been reminiscing about my childhood a lot lately, the lens of which I saw the world through, the memories associated with certain things. But to be honest, I really miss the good night stories the most. It was as simple as Llama Llama Red Pajama or even Froggy Gets Dressed.
Hello, everyone. Glad to see you all here today. Just a little bit about this award. It's the Tanya Nichols Award. Her name was mentioned a little earlier. I was in her class a few years ago before she retired, and so I want to give a shout out to two of my classmates who were in that class with me, Scott Noah and Valentina Hernandez. We decided to put this award together for her honor because she ran the conference for so many years. So thank you, Tanya, for your everlasting knowledge onto your students. And again, thank you everyone, and Scott and Valentino for helping me putting this award together. So the award goes to Emma Camacho from Summit Collegiate High School for 5 Truths. Congrats.
Women don't want to be equal to men. Men are not the standard of humanity. Girlhood, it's wanting to live on your own terms because we don't want to meet them at their level. Girlhood is having our history littered with the bodies of women who truly believe that a man would never. Girlhood is getting told that you are begging for attention when you finally wake up early enough to do your makeup. Girlhood is exhausting, but maybe a quick trip to the mall will help to get away from it all.
Okay, and the second award that I'm going to be introducing, I had the honor to present this award last year, so it's great to do it again this year, is going to be the William Soroyan Award, and that's going to go to Ivan Aguilar from Liberty High School for I Believed Her Performance. Congratulations.
I'd always had the makings of a fool because I didn't know better and still chose to ignore it. Running back to the Mulberry week after week, falling for a lady of the night, and sitting here asking her to pretend she felt the same despite knowing she never would. Time slipped that night away from me. With the scent of a drink in the air, her touch on my skin, and the illusion of infatuation, I was made a fool all over again as I believed her performance.
My name is Angelina Leaños, and I have many roles on campus, but right now I'll be presenting the Normal School Award as poetry editor and on behalf of the managing editor. So this award goes to Xochitl Flores from Fowler High School for El Sol.
Mi maestra preguntaba a los estudiantes para que cortaran cómo fueron sus vacaciones y lo que fue más emocionante que sucedió. Cuando me dijeron para compartir, miré a mis compañeros de clase cuyos ojos estaban llenos de curiosidad. Finalmente hablé después de una larga pausa. Mentir era mi única opción. Fingí que pasé el momento más emocionante en la playa, en el fondo sabiendo que nunca he visto el océano. Me sentí avergonzado de que mis padres fueran trabajadores de campo de uva, pero fui demasiado ingenuo para darme cuenta que a mis padres se les quemaba la espalda para llevar comida a la mesa.
Hello, everybody. My name is Daphne Damien Hernandez, and I have the honor of presenting the Fawcett Awards. So the first award is going to go to Yasmin Araim from San Joaquin Memorial High School for a Child of War, who unfortunately will not be able to join us today. Our second award goes to Giselle Bennett from University High School for a Sesame Bagel.
This game I would play with myself of wanting and denying and counting and weighing and measuring was tiring. That was another epiphany I had while staring at this bag of bagels in the pantry. I like numbers, but math was ruined for me years ago. It was adding, subtracting, and multiplying numbers that had led me to this bagel. Games of what I should and shouldn't eat, how much or how little I had or hadn't consumed.
Good morning. My name is Mai Der Vang, and I'm a faculty in the English department. and it's my pleasure to present the Philip Levine Prize Award. Philip Levine was a nationally renowned poet, as Provost Fu shared earlier, and he helped to found our MFA Creative Writing program here at Fresno State. So it's my pleasure to present this award, the Philip Levine Prize Award, to Jacqueline Gabriel Louise from King City High School for Observer's Sketchbook. Congratulations.
You can feel scared. Fear is okay. You have to be an optimist. Good things come. Rally when people are underprivileged. Break nuclear power. One is easy, one is not. A powerful impact, all the same. Celebrate reason, recommend identity, afford the extraordinary.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hua Lee, and I am presenting the Hmong American Ink and Stories Award. This award is presented to a student who has produced a stellar piece of writing centered on the Asian American experience. And as president of Hmong American Ink and Stories, it is my pleasure to present this award to Victoria Lee from University High School for their piece, Good Night to My Love and Lost.
Pajij and her family had to flee across the Mekong quietly without getting caught by the soldiers. She attempted to flee with her family, but could only make it so far with what strength she had left. She tried to convince her family to leave her behind, but her parents refused. She told them that she was tired, and all she wanted to do was rest. "I'm sorry," she murmured.
Good morning. My name is Taylor Seals. I am the president of SJLA, and it's my honor to introduce the San Joaquin Literary Association Award to Caitlin Coslins from San Joaquin Memorial High School for their Bat poem. Unfortunately, they weren't able to join us today, but we're very happy to celebrate their achievement. Thank you.
I flap and fly with false facsimiles of feathered beasts, free in the shrouded joys of the night. For once the world is right side up, but soon I must return to the dark and dull and cavernous and crowded, black upon black upon black, clothed in the abyss of home.
Hello, my name is Amelia Holguin, and I am the MFA student representative for Fresno State. It is an honor to be in a room full of such inspired and talented young writers. If I have any advice, I would say keep going, keep writing. You never know where your writing will take you. And for the MFA award, the winner is Gabriela Ibarra from Corcoran High School for The Weight I Never Chose.
But still I breathe, though it cuts like a knife. Still I rise, though they shattered my life. They took from me something, left me with scars, but I am not ashes, I am still stars. Not my fault, not my shame, not my sin to bear. I will scream it, I will fight, though it feels unfair. And maybe one day these wounds will fade, and I'll learn how to live unafraid.
Also, as president of Chicanx Writers and Artists Association, it is my honor to present the Qua Award to Lana Gomez from Corcoran High School for Goodnight Vessels.
They come in the night. No time to pack, no time to say goodbye. Just flashing lights, botas pesadas, and the sound of familias crying. One day we were a familia. The next, just empty seats at the table. No crimes, no warnings, just papers that decide who gets to stay. They say it's la ley, But laws don't tuck you in at night. Laws don't wipe your lágrimas or bring back the ones they took.
It is also my honor to present the Fresno Poets Association Award, which goes to Haley Williams from Chowchilla High School for The Things I Cannot Say.
What I cannot say, I barely said here. Words claw at my throat. I love you. I want you. All remains unsaid. I wish I were dead. I did it again. I've said too much. Hence why what I cannot say should always remain that way.
Hi, I'm Michelle McConnell. I'm also faculty in the English department here, and I have 2 awards to present. The first is the Shirley Ann Williams Award, and it goes to Yasmin Arim from San Joaquin Memorial High School for Child of War. Unfortunately, she isn't with us today, so if we could still give her a round of applause. My next award is the Wendy Rose Award, and this goes to Carlos Pisano Hernandez from Riverdale High School for A Breath Between Seasons.
I watched as the 2 seasons waltzed, the cold with the warmth, the fleeting whispers of each season tangled in each other's arms. It was such a suspicious sight. No matter how much thought I put into this, I knew that this should not be happening. Snow fell over the remnants of summer that still lingered on through the salt air. I could not do anything but stay seated and admire the duality of nature, not knowing whether to surrender to reality or continue on with the hope of life.
Good morning. I'm Marcy Hawes, and I'm a co-director of the San Joaquin Valley Writing Project, which is a network of PK through 16 educators committed to improve the teaching of writing. We are part of the California Writing Project Network, as well as the National Writing Project Network. San Joaquin Valley Writing Project has been at Fresno State since 1979, and today we are thrilled to be able to honor the work of teachers who are supporting and helping to grow their students as writers. The first award goes to Ben Pulslich from Summit Collegiate High School. And the second award goes to Peggy Nemeth from Riverdale High School.
All right, and that is it for our awards. Congratulations to you all. Another round of applause. So now please take 5 minutes to stand, stretch, and allow this award-winning writers a moment to take a photograph outside. And we will begin the keynote portion as soon as everyone is back in their seats. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. Please get seated in and ready to be transported by our keynote speaker, Donna Barba Higuera, and it's going to be introduced by our English Studies Major, Daphne Damian Hernandez. So welcome. Here's Daphne.
Hello. It's okay if you come on in late. It's nothing important. Hello and welcome. My name is Daphne Damian Hernandez, and as a first-generation Chicana English Studies student, I have the absolute honor of introducing this year's keynote speaker, Donna Barba-Higuera. Donna Barba-Higuera grew up in a tiny desert town here in Central California, surrounded by agricultural and oil fields. Rather than wrangling dust devils, she spent recess squirreled away into a janitor's closet with a good book. Her favorite hobbies were calling the library's dial a story over and over again and sneaking into restricted pioneers' cemetery to weave her own spooky tales using a crumbling headstone for inspiration. Donna's middle grade and picture books reinvent history, folklore, and her own life experience into compelling storylines. And she even still dreams in Spanglish today. Donna lives in Washington State with her family, 2 dogs, 2 guppies, and a frog. Her books include the New York Times bestselling The Last Cuentista, which received the Newbery Medal Award, and the Pura Belbe Award, Lupe Wong Won't Dance, which received the Pura Belbe honor, Sid Fleischman Award for Best Children's Humor Book of the Year, and PNBA Award. She's also written picture books for El Cucuy is Sacred Too, It's Navidad El Cucuy, and as well as The Yellow Handkerchief, or otherwise as known as El Pañuelo Amarillo. Her latest novel is Alebrijes. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Donna Barba-Higuera.
Hello. This is really weird for me. I go all over the world speaking, and I'm like home. This is very strange. And so I actually am really nervous. We were just talking about being nervous before you speak. And I'm always nervous, and I think that if I didn't care, I wouldn't be nervous. And I'm especially nervous now, so I care a lot. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself. These are some of my books that are in the world. The book on the inn, Xolo, you're probably the first people seeing this cover. I'm not supposed to show it yet, so pretend like you didn't see it. But as you can see, I write both novels and picture books, and they're both really hard. So if there are those of you out there who don't know what you want to write, just know you can do all the things. You don't have to stick within a certain genre or age group. Go explore your writing and do a little bit of everything. So I do want to go a little quickly today because I want to make sure that we have time for your questions at the end. So just really quickly, a little bit about myself. Like she already said, I live in the Pacific Northwest. This is my backyard. I live on a fjord, and it looks out at the Olympic rainforest, out toward Forks where the vampires live. They're out there. And I did catch that crab. It's a Dungeness crab. I caught that in the water outside my house. I love gardening. I have chickens. I'm a Central Valley girl. I grew up with chickens and my family. Some of them were ranchers, some worked in the oil fields, some were field and farm workers. And so I took it with me wherever I go. My dream was to have chickens, and I do. I have chickens in a garden. This is my family. We're a combined family, like a lot of families. And my husband is there on the couch with me. He's also a writer. He writes middle grade fiction. He's a Packers fan. He's a man monster, like a mountain. He's a monstrous guy. He's like 6'6". As you can see, the two in the center, those are my stepdaughter and stepson. And the two short, dark-haired ones are mine. You can tell who belongs to who in that picture. So I want to talk a little bit about my ideas, though, and where they come from, because somebody mentioned earlier just about our imaginations. So as I'm speaking, you're going to hear about me, but I want you to the entire time to be thinking about yourself and your ideas. And here we go. I take this slide with me all over the world, and people are like, ooh, and you're all like, yeah, we know. So to me, this is home, and this is what created me. This is what formed me, and it follows me everywhere. My parents, I'm mixed race, and my mother, her family was from Oklahoma. A lot of people moved after the Dust Bowl to work in the oil fields, and
She was a teacher. She taught kindergarten and first grade, and she was an amazing storyteller. She told me things about her childhood, things that I did not believe were real, like flying squirrels. I was like, well, that can't be real. And my dad, his family had been here a really long time in the Central Valley and near Paso Robles, and they were field and farm workers originally, and my dad was a high school history teacher. He worked his way in the fields and picking weeds in the oil fields to work his way through college, and he became a high school history teacher. And he was an amazing storyteller, but his stories were always fantastical. And if you know anything about like Latino culture, a lot of the stories we really think are real. We grow up with them and they're real. So to me, my mom's stories were make-believe, but my dad's stories were real. This is my abuela, and she was a storyteller. When she was very young, her father died. She was 10 years old, and she had to go to work, and so that she had that level of education. And she was sent from Santa Margarita, which is near Paso Robles, and she was sent to the Bay Area, away from her family, to work in a hotel. And she didn't have a great grasp of the language. She didn't read or write well, but she could tell stories. And she decided that if she could, to make family away from home where she didn't have any, if she could be a good storyteller, if she could scare people or make them laugh, that she would make friends. And she did. And so when I was a young child, this was my grandmother's house even when I was young. They lived out in the desert. And that was her shed. That's my dad dancing. And behind those sheets are the oil fields. And she would tell me stories. And I think a lot of times we think of stories as books. And my grandmother, in the oral tradition of storytelling, would tell me, just weave these magical tales. And I don't even think she always knew the entire story, but we would sit out on the back of her porch, and there would be coyotes and, howling, and her chickens clucking. And she would maybe, depending on the weather, if it was like 100 degrees, no, but she would start a fire under the stars, and she would tell us stories. And it was a really magical place. So even though this house, the floors were sagging and it was dusty, this is where we live. We all know this. And the walls were kind of falling in, but it was the most beautiful and magical place that I can remember as a child. So you would think that with all these storytellers and people in my life that I would have immediately become a writer and a storyteller. But I didn't. I became an eye doctor. So I loved science, but I loved writing and storytelling more. But when I graduated high school, my parents were nervous. I think they wanted to make sure that I could take care of myself and that I never had to rely on someone. So they really pushed me toward the sciences. But I was always writing. I was always writing stories, and my imagination was always going places. The first time I remember making up stories in my mind was someone should not have allowed me to do my hair that day. And those of you who grew up in the Central Valley, this is like after summer because my hair is like light and red, and our hair lightens in the summer. But ask your parents and grandparents. We had these books called Reader's Digest coffee table books, and they all had different topics. And my aunt had this book, and it's like what it sounds like. It's a story about UFOs and ghosts and things that don't have any explanation. And so as a child, I would make up the explanations myself. I would decide, and I don't think everybody does that, but I think a lot of us who are writers and storytellers, we have big imaginations and never apologize for that. However, teachers would go, okay, can you focus? And my mind was elsewhere. I was always making up stories in my mind. But I also had my local library, and this is taken a few months ago. They haven't changed anything. It's that same font and like weird little building. And I was sure that Mrs. Hughes, the librarian, lived there. And when I would walk in, she knew who my family was. At that time, there really were not very many Latinos in Taft at all. It's a very different place now. But it was me and my friend Vince, and he's like a brother now, but we were about it. And I would go into the library, and Mrs. Hughes would have a stack of books. She knew who my family was. And so I think she gave me the books that she thought I wanted to read, but also the books that I needed. And she allowed my mind to escape that small little town. The first time I was like, oh, I think I might want to be a writer, and I kind of like sci-fi, was when she gave me this book. And so while a lot of us know this book, it allowed my mind to go to other worlds and places aside from this small little town. She also gave me these books. These are what the covers looked like back then, so I'm dating myself. But all of those things kind of formed me and who I was. But there were also parts who, I think some of you will recognize these, some of you, well, all of your teachers will know what these are. But as a kid, I loved Planet of the Apes. I love The Twilight Zone. I know you probably have heard of The Twilight Zone, but it stands the test of time. Even though they're in black and white, the stories are really bizarre and creepy. This one, if you are a writer or a reader, is the most horrifying episode you'll ever see. I can't remember, I think it's Time at Last is the title. So if you just go find that one and watch that, it'll scare you worse than any horror film. But I also love Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie. And it followed me through. I tried to impose my love of sci-fi on my kids with Doctor Who. So if there are any Whovians, it's great. A lot of people don't know it in the U.S. It's on BBC, but all of those people are the same character, the Doctor, and he regenerates into different forms. But I want to talk a little bit about the stories we hear and the power of them. I have found that I can be anywhere in the world with any person from a totally different culture, and stories have by the shortest thread can connect us really quickly if we share our stories with one another. And when I was a little girl, I thought I was the only one with an El Cucuy. And so a lot of us here like, oh my gosh. I didn't want to tell anyone because I thought my friends at school couldn't handle El Cucuy. Like they knew okay, let me explain. If there might be those of you who's like, what is she talking about? El Cucuy is kind of like the Mexican boogeyman. And like we have the American boogeyman and who like lives under the bed and might tickle your toe or whatever. But you don't know what it looks like. It's just kind of there. Well, we know what El Cucuy looks like, and he has bloody fangs and claws, and his eyes glow, and he's hairy, and if you don't eat your dinner, El Cucuy's gonna come eat you, and if you don't go to sleep, El Cucuy's gonna come steal you away in the middle of the night. That's kind of messed up. But like in Latino culture, that's a thing. And I think I have found all cultures kind of have some of these, but in particular, this is really messed up because then you can't sleep at night because you think El Cucuy is going to come get you. So it backfires. And you say, okay, who does that to a young child? Who would be so cruel to tell those stories? Well, she did. And so when we look at that, this is the one you want to see. That's the one who scared the pudding out of me. And so I believe that El Cucuy lived at my grandmother's house behind a cactus pot. And I couldn't sleep at night. It was really scary. When I knew of El Cucuy, and then I got older, and I was like, does anybody else have a Cucuy? And we all know writing prompts, we're like, wah, wah, but as writers, they're awesome. But there was a writing prompt for a picture book, and it said, take the thing that scared you the most as a child and make it adorable. And I was like, there's no way to make El Cucuy adorable. But I tried. And I decided, how do you make this scary thing less scary? And I made him afraid of something. I wrote a story about a boy, like one of my cousins who had moved from Mexico City, and he was nervous because he didn't speak the language. He was afraid of his clothes. And suddenly El Cucuy wasn't scary anymore. But El Cucuy was scared too, because he's like, we're moving and we're starting a new school. So I decided I was going to try. And Juliana Perdomo, who is from Bogota, Colombia, she knew who El Cucuy was, but I think they call him El Cuco in Colombia. And so we created this book. And so I would argue that taking this one story from my childhood of something really frightening, we were able to create something kind of magical. And that's really important. And now it's it's moving into middle grade. I wrote a novel of the El Cucuy origin story. It's still scary, like they threaten to eat children and things like that. So a lot of times we ask ourselves, that's kind of weird. People are like, okay, that's a weird concept. But these things follow us even in our own neighborhoods and within our own communities. And we all have those scary stories. And you might go, oh, we don't have that in Fresno, but you do. I mean, it's around you. So, yeah, what the heck? What is that thing? So the stories that we're told sometimes don't have all the answers. And as writers, we get to make those answers up, because if we have big imaginations, we can write those and they become ours. They belong to us so that we can share them with others. So when I was a little girl, staying with my grandmother, we would go outside and she would say, "Do you see el conejo en la luna?" And I would look up, and El Conejo means rabbit, and I was like looking, and I was looking for the rabbit in the moon. And I would go, yeah, I see it, because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. I never saw that rabbit. I never saw it. And so, but I remembered as I got older that story, and I wanted to know where that had come from. And so I started looking up El Conejo en la Luna, and I found this. Some of us have heard of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god. And the way the story goes, there's lots of stories about Quetzalcoatl, but in this story, Quetzalcoatl was a mighty god, and he had helped create Earth. And he wanted to come see what he had created. And so to do that, he had to come as a human. And so he did. And he was seeing all the beauty, the nature and the animals. But he didn't realize that coming as a human meant that he had to eat and that he had to drink. And in this respect, you can see he's starving and he's dying here. So even though he'd seen all these mighty creatures, the smallest of them hopped up to him and said, "I see that you're suffering. I see that you're dying. I know that you created all of this, and I don't want you to die. I want you to go see the rest of the world. So I'm going to offer myself. You can eat me, and you will survive, and you'll go on to see all of these things." And Quetzalcoatl said, "I'm not going to eat you. You've been the bravest of all of anything I've seen here on earth, but I'm not going to eat you. But I am going to reward you for your bravery, and I'm going to make you immortal." And so he took El Conejo, and Quetzalcoatl threw him up toward the moon, where he landed. And today you can see the outline of him there. Now, some of you may not even remember this talk or may not remember me, but I guarantee you that when there's a full moon, you will go looking for El Conejo. And you'll remember the story of his sacrifice. And that's how stories connect us. And even those of you out there who might share some of my cultural background may have never known this story. And there are others like this. Some of us recognize this image. And this image, when I first saw it, it was in one of my aunt's homes, and it was on black velvet. And I thought it was so haunting. I was like, okay, something looks sad about it. Is she napping? I hope she's napping. I hope she's not dead. What's going on here? And a lot of you might recognize it and go, gosh, I feel like I've seen that before. You're probably not in my tia Ophelia's house, so you probably saw it in a Mexican restaurant, because they're all over the place. So now that I've told you, you're going to see them all over the place. But the way the story goes is Itzashiwat was the maiden, and Popocatépetl was the warrior. And they were in love, and they wanted to be married. And Itzashiwat's father was the chieftain of the village where they lived. And as was custom, Popocatépetl had to go ask for permission to marry Itza. And so he went to her father and he said, I love Itzasihuat, I want to marry her. And her father said, that's wonderful, I think you should be married. However, I am at war and this is not the right time, but I'll make you a proposition. If you go fight for me and you come back victorious, I will let you marry her immediately. And so Popo said, yes, I will go do that. And so he went off to war to fight, and they were victorious, they were winning. But while he was gone, the shaman of the village went to Itzasihuat, and he wanted power. And so he went to her and said, I want you to marry my son. And she said, I cannot marry your son. I'm going to marry Popocatépetl. And he said, I have to tell you some really bad news. Popo was killed in the war. And so Itzasihuat, heartbroken, died. She lay down and died. And when Popocatépetl returned, he found her and he picked her up and he carried her to the top of a mountain to keep her safe, where he lit a torch, as you can see in the image. And to this day, people outside of Mexico City can look up and see Popocatépetl. And the name of the mountain is Popocatépetl. And oftentimes when humans see things in nature, they have to have an explanation for it. The things that we can't explain, we make up stories. And so they did. And this is where this folklore and mythology comes from. And these are the two mountains. This is Popocatépetl and Itzasihuat. And so when people see these mountains, it reminds you of that story. However, now you're going to see that picture in a Mexican restaurant or that painting, and you're going to know the story behind it. And again, you may not remember me, but that's the power of stories. This story will follow you now for the rest of your life. And it's why I chose to incorporate those tales within my writing. The folklore and mythology that are within the Las Cuentistas are there for a reason, to connect the reader to the work. There was another, sometimes we hear bits and pieces of something and we make up the entire stories ourselves. There is a god in Aztec culture called Cihuat, and he's a fire snake god. He's like a dragon, and there's I couldn't find many stories, if at all, about him. So I decided, if any of you have read the Las Cuentistas, and if you don't want to read it, that's fine. But if you read the opening chapter, it's only a few pages, you'll see where this came from. And so I decided in my book that I wanted to somehow incorporate culture with sci-fi. And so I needed to do it from the beginning. And so I started with a scene with a grandmother in the desert talking to her grandmother by a fire and telling her how the comet that's about to hit Earth isn't really a comet, but the fire snake god. And in order to do that, I had to make up a story. I made up my own mythology for that first chapter. And I think that as readers, it wasn't just the story that they connected to, it was also the relationship with a girl and her abuela. Because we all cherish our grandmothers, and that's a universal love. And so in doing that, I wrote this chapter with this fire snake god, and the artist read that and created this. She was a fabric designer in the Philippines. And she read the opening chapter and she created this cover. Well, as you know, that's not the cover. And, but they thought that people were too afraid of snakes, which I am. So it was a marketing decision. So instead she created this cover. But if you take off the paper flap of the book, that snake, this is still there. And so again, that's the power of story. Just as writers, we can make stuff up and other artists can interpret it. I've had, people who have made plays of my work. There's so much that we can do from a creative standpoint. So you might look and go, okay, So she did that, but she had many, many years of practice. Yes, I did, and I practiced, but I remember I also had another career. So you don't have to do one thing. You can go do all the things. I heard somebody saying earlier how in your education, you can study multiple things. So don't feel like if I want to be a writer, and other things come up in life, you're never going to stop being a writer. You're here today, so you are all writers. And sorry, the vortex pulled you in. You can't get out. You're stuck now. You're a writer for life. So after I wrote this book, I want to go through quickly because I want to leave some time for questions. One of the big questions was, then what happened after this book? Because the way the book ends, sometimes we want to know if we like these characters, what happens to them next? So I decided to write another story. And I don't know if anyone here has read Alabrijes. It's the second in the series, totally new character. And as Petra in the last Cuentista leaves Earth to go to another planet, I wanted to write about what happened after the comet strike. So Alabrijes is set in a dystopian future. It's 400 years after the comet strike. And I got to decide where it was and who I took. So guess who I took? Us. So this is my great-grandfather, Francisco, who was a field and farm worker. So I had stories of him. I never met him, but I had stories of him. And so I decided to incorporate him into the book and some of the characters, as well as my grandmother's. That's my grandma on the end and her mother. This is a funeral picture. You might go, why? People didn't have money to take pictures like we do. Like you had to pay to take pictures in the past. So funerals and weddings were really the only pictures. And these were probably their best clothes. My tia Berta was having none of it, so she's in her overalls. But like my great grandmother had all these children to support. And so all of them, aside from my tia Berta and my uncle Frank, everybody else went to work. And these are hardworking people, and they made sacrifices. That was who I wanted to take into this dystopian future, but not because I wanted to punish them. I wanted to show who I viewed as having strength and being able to handle this story. This is my grandmother afterwards, and this is close to the fields where she worked, the same fields where her father had worked. This is my mother's family from Oklahoma after the Dust Bowl. They were impoverished. They had nothing when they moved to California. And this is, those are the oil fields behind them. And those are the houses. They were little shanties that they lived in to work in. They were strong. These are strong people. And they went to work in the oil fields. The only picture I had of someone working in the oil fields was my uncle and his best friend, and these are the oil fields behind Taft. That's my grandmother's truck, which ended up in El Pañuelo Amarillo, or the yellow handkerchief. I talk about a girl in relationship with the grandmother, and the grandmother who drove the dusty, rusty truck into town. And this is that. But I also incorporated my fears. And a lot of people, when I'm speaking, don't get this, but you will. They're around us all the time in the Central Valley, and I was scared to death as a child of rattlesnakes. And so I decided to take control of that and use that concept of rattlesnakes, but make them, that is part of the persona that the survivors have taken on. They're called the cascabeles. But I also love sci-fi elements, and so I chose this. There's a company in the Netherlands making peregrine falcons out of drones to scare other birds off of runways. And that idea, I was like, oh my gosh, that's bizarre. I'm going to use it. The weirder I go, the more people seem to like the books that I create. So David Alvarez, who was the artist for the cover, read this concept and created this, and it's this dark dystopian looking picture, and this is the actual cover. So you might look at this and go, oh, he's kind of cute, he looks curious, but if you open that cover up, this is what you see behind. So it's about secrets, and the secrets that we tell, and in a dystopian society, often there are a lot of times people telling secrets. So a lot of times I would say, okay, are the stories though that I'm weaving in and telling too weird? And this is my retort. So I want you to ask yourself in closing, I want to ask you to ask yourself these questions. Even if you feel like the ideas in your mind are too strange, write them down. If you think you have this amazing idea, write it down immediately because you think it'll stay with you, but sometimes they fly away and we forget them. So keep notes. We've already talked about this. Your imagination is amazing and it's a powerful tool. And someone was talking about AI earlier, and all this is coming out right now. Don't use AI. A publisher will never publish you with AI. It's in all the contracts now, and all this came out like within the last 6 months. And I'm telling you, you don't need it. You're here because you're good writers and you have good brains, and trust your guts and trust your brains. So this was the moment that I got the call that I'd won the Newbery Medal, and they don't tell you in advance. It's a big shock. And I thought this is the moment when I also knew that my life was going to be very different. I was going to be places like this, talking to you, talking to fellow writers that I may have never met before. And since that time, a lot has happened. I've met some amazing people along the way. And it's really humbling because some of these people, you go, oh my gosh, I love their books, and you meet them in person and you're really nervous. But this entire time going to all these things, the thing that always is running in the back of my mind is where I'm from and the Central Valley and growing up in the San Joaquin Valley and what that means and putting that into my work. This runs through my mind. It's always a reminder. When I gave the Newbery speech, I thanked Mrs. Hughes. I knew that she was long since gone because she was older when I was young. But I thanked her in my speech, and I went to look for her obituary, and I said, I have to find her. I need to know what happened to her. And couldn't find anything. So I went on Facebook, tried to look up, nothing there. My high school geometry teacher posted little cartoons, and one day, someone with the last name Hughes liked one of the cartoons, and I looked, and it was someone who'd grown up in Taft. I'm like, well, it's a small town, so I contacted them and said, do you know Mrs. Hughes from the library? And I waited, didn't hear anything. About a month later, I got a note back, and it was from Mrs. Hughes' daughter, and she said, I'm her daughter, and her name is Harriet. She's not Mrs. Hughes. Her name's Harriet, and she's 98 years old and alive and well. So I hurriedly wrote a letter to Mrs. Hughes and put my books in it, and I mailed them off to her. And about 2 weeks later, I got this picture back. The puppet is Larry Library. He used to do the dial-a stories and the stories at the library with her and would act things out. And it created this pen pal relationship. And we wrote back and forth to each other. And when I had a book come out, I would mail it to her. And this connection over time happened. So if there's somebody who's made a difference to you, whether you're a professor or a student, reach out to those people because they may still be around, and let them know you appreciate them and what they've done for you. I found out about a month ago that Mrs. Hughes passed. She was 100, and she had a very full life, and she was sharp to the very end and died in her sleep. I think how all of us would want to go. But I was worried that I hadn't mailed off that last letter, and I was kind of beating myself up. But I realized when it counted, I was like, okay, I took a risk. I knew I might make myself feel foolish, and now I don't because I was able to have this connection with her. So please do that for yourself and know that you might be that person for someone one day. They might read your work and go, you changed my life. You gave me permission to be a writer. My hope is that one of you will read my book and then go, I can do it better than she did, and go do it. Please go do it. And keep your ideas. Nothing is too bizarre or magical because there are kids out there who want to connect with you, and there are readers who want to connect with you. So please do that. So are there any questions? Oh, they set up a mic. So normally it takes 1 or 2 people to come and ask the question, and then there's a line. So if you want to ask a question, come down, because we don't have a ton of time. I think everybody, I don't know where you're going next. I don't want to say lunch, because then if it's not lunch, is it? Okay, it's lunch.
Hello, yeah, it's an honor to speak with you here today. So, obviously we're all writers, and I know a lot of us are going to be novelists, such as myself, and I have been finished with my novel. I am thinking about doing some rewrites and going back and editing things, but if I wanted to, I could publish my novel tomorrow. But my question is, how does the technical process of getting into publishing work? How do you find the people to talk to? Because I've been trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. I wrote it myself, I edited it myself, I did the cover art for it myself. But when it comes to publishing, I don't have the factories or the means of getting my book out into the world. How did you find it?
So I think when I was creating, I had written many novels that I hope will never see the light of day. But like you, I revised and I edited and went along, and the way it happened for me, I was taking a class. I was at a children's book writing conference in Oregon, and I was sitting at a table, and we were reading our first pages, and there happened to be an editor from Scholastic there. And when we read the first page out loud, he just asked me afterwards, "Where are you with this novel?" And I said, "Oh, I just completed it." And he said, "Can you send it to me?" Which is what happened. I did have an agent, and then they negotiated, and like a week later, Scholastic bought that book, which is Lupe Wong Won't Dance. Now, Arthur A. Levine had his own imprint at Scholastic. If you know Arthur's work, he's the editor of Harry Potter. And he ended up leaving Scholastic and starting his own imprint called Living Querido, and he asked me to go with him, and I did. My journey is going to be different than anybody else's. I have friends who are self-published, but I will tell you, it's a hustle. You have to market yourself, and there's so much that goes into it. And oftentimes, if you don't, your family and friends will buy the book, and that's it, because no one hears about it. And so there is that marketing aspect. So that's why a lot of people like myself who probably, I'm not great at social media. I don't think I would be good at marketing and those kinds of things. So I went the traditional route, and it can be discouraging. There's a ton of rejection. There were times when I was trying to get an agent, and I got 72 rejections. So please know that in the publishing industry, you have to have a little bit of a tough outer skin and know that it only takes one person to say yes, whether it's an agent or an editor or having someone to go to bat for you. But I would tell you, just keep doing what you're doing. There are people who publish their own books even on Amazon now. I have friends who've done it, but they work their butts off to market those books. So you have to decide which way you want to go. But no, if you go the traditional route, sometimes it's discouraging, but you can do it. Hang in there.
Hi, oh my gosh, it's an honor to meet you. So as a writer, it's kind of hard to debate when something is finished, quote unquote, because me personally, I'm trying to finish up on my own film, and it's so hard to decide when it's done or not, because sometimes you get a new idea, and then you're like, oh, I could add that, and then it's finished, and then the whole process repeats again until it's too much. So how do you, as a writer, know when it's done, personally, that's the first thing, that's the final thing? Because I have added way too much, and it's starting to be a whole series now.
Oh, girl, I feel you. So I'm working on the 3rd book in the series, and I was sitting back here, and I'm on a deadline, and I'm listening to people getting their awards and what they're writing samples, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be done, and I'm like adding another creature into this book, and I'm like, what am I doing? No more details. And I will tell you, even when you think you're done, you're not done, because I was teaching at a college in New York a couple days ago, and I was giving a presentation. It was a writing workshop, and they saw my desktop, and it is littered with files, and they're like laughing. And I said, listen, these are all works in progress. I know exactly where everything is. And even though I want to think I'm done, then an editor comes into the picture. And so I went and I pulled up the back and forth editorial for Alebrijes and let them see, like, each of those is a different revision. And so as writers, we go, oh my gosh, I hate revision. Well, if you want to be a professional writer, you have to get used to it. I love it because it's like a puzzle and you get to weave things. So don't worry too much about those details, because I do exactly what you do. And then the editor comes in and just cut, like cuts out all my precious words, because we feel like they're our babies and they're so precious, and then they just end up in the gutter, and it feels like, oh. But just know that get all your ideas down, and you don't want to start sending your work off until you feel like this is the best I can get it. But don't leave things out. Get it all in there, and then step away for a while, and then go back with fresh eyes and look at it again. Read it out loud. One of the best tools you can do, a lot of people don't do this. Read your work out loud. Even better, if someone else can read it, you'll see what they stumble over. So if you're adding in details that you're like, does this belong? There's gonna be stumbling, and you'll know that you have to cut it, even though it feels precious to you. So just put it all in there. Just try to get it in, but you'll know after a while. You go, oh, does this really belong? Just be honest with yourself. If it feels precious, but maybe it's not.
Hi, I appreciate you speaking today. I have a question. Have you ever hit a writer's block? I'm not like the biggest writer.
Yeah,
or
it's
anything,
right here behind me. Do you want me to?
But if you have, like, how have you gone through that, or like what powered you to go through that?
So writer's block is tricky, because I think we're told as writers, there's like that old adage, butt in chair, and that means you're writing. I will go lay down and close my eyes, and I know some people, like, things play out like a movie in my mind, and some people that don't have that. I didn't realize that. There are people who don't imagine things or see it like a movie in their mind, but I'll lay there, and my husband will walk in, he goes, are you napping? I'm like, no, I'm writing. And that counts, like that counts like part of that creative process of letting your mind go places. The other thing I do is if I know that I'm writing like a chase scene, I'll listen to music without words, but listen to music that feels like a chase scene and try to imagine it. And then I get up and I start writing. Those are things that help me. If I can't figure a scene out or like what I want to put, I try to pull out my imagination. And I find that the best scenes come from that place. They're very cinematic. And people tell me that all the time. They're like, your books are very cinematic. I'm like, oh, okay. And that's probably because that's how I envision them first before I put them on the page. But if you're truly like stuck on a project, go write something else. It's not going anywhere. It'll always be back there for you later. And typically something happens in life. You might hear something or whatever, and then suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, I know now what I need to do. But writer's block to me typically means that I don't know what to do next with the plot. And so that's why I have to take a step back and do something different.
Tana, we have time for one more.
One more question. Maybe 1.5.
I'll make it quick. Hi there. Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to ask, I know some writers tend to prefer structuring out their books, and some prefer to just start at the beginning and fly by the seat of their pants. Which would you say you are?
It's like people say, are you a plotter or a pantser? And I plot out and I write a synopsis, and because my editor, they will always ask for it. Can we have your synopsis? And I always put the disclaimer below. The story is not going to end up like this. So, but this is just the generality of where I think it might go, because as you're writing, and it's kind of that that concept of your characters take on a life of their own. I don't control where they go, and sometimes I'm like, no, that's not what the synopsis says, but they're going, and I just follow them. And so even though I plot things, I go back and look later, I'm like, well, that was wishful thinking, that didn't happen. And then I just go back to letting the story tell itself, because I think that stories do that. If you have a big imagination, the stories will lead you in the directions that they're meant to go, at least for me. But if you need to plot, but if it goes other ways, let that happen too. Yeah.
One more?
Hi, this is my first Young Writers Conference, and you made this a great experience for me. I was wondering how you deal with kind of the idea that, like, oh, now this is my work, and then when something, like, doesn't take off like you thought it would, and then it kind of, like, makes you want to quit, you know, how do you, like, deal with that?
They can't all be winners. And I have some books that have done really, really well. Like, it's weird because The Last Quintista was on the New York Times bestseller list for like 37 weeks. That's really unusual. And then I have books that haven't earned out yet. Earning out means that when a publisher, they give you an advance to write the book, first, before you get another dime, the book has to earn back what they've given you. And a lot of writers don't know that. And you normally get about $1 per book. And so there are times when it's hard because you love all these stories. You're like, why did this one resonate more than this one? But you just keep going. You just keep writing and know that the thing I tell myself is that even though one book might like look a lot more successful than another, it's not that way because there's a child who read that other book, that other book was just as powerful to them as that other one was to other people. And so you have to look at it as, for me, is like, how is it affecting people? So what I tell myself as I'm writing is just to make sure that every single book I write is heartfelt and that I'm connecting, I'm being vulnerable in a way that I can connect with readers, because not every book is for every reader, but there's going to be one or two out there that book is pivotal for, and that's who you're writing for. So even if you have an idea that you're like, oh, I don't think this one is as good, you still have to do service to that idea because there's somebody out there, there's a reader who needs it. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Go have lunch, I suppose. I'm going to be signing books over here, so if you brought your own copies, or I think there are some available for purchase, if you want to purchase a book, I'm happy to sign them. Thank you.